Many Nigerians believe that one of the country's biggest problems is corruption. President Muhammadu Buhari, when he came into power in 2015, made it his major assignment to fight corruption. He has also reiterated the fact that he will continue to fight corruption in his second tenure. One of the organizations that is known for monitoring Nigeria's anti-corruption fight performance is SERAP, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project. And today on Root Cause, we have them right here to tell us how well Nigeria is doing with fighting corruption. My name is Gloria Oje Emode. And right here in the studio, I have the Deputy Director of SERAP in the person of Kolawale Oluwadare.
Yes, you got it right.
Thank you. Welcome to Abuja.
It's nice to be here.
Fantastic. So, we'll go straight to it. You have this publication. In fact, in the past few months, you have spent a lot of time assessing the anti-corruption performance of almost every MDA, every agency in this country. So we would like to know some of your findings. Let's start on a general basis. How well has Nigeria done in fighting corruption?
To introduce the report properly, we chose the 5 key sectors which we know applies to all Nigerians. Education, health, power, and then the judiciary are and health is some of the areas we examined. And the purpose of the report is that we wanted to assess the perceptions of Nigerians, what they perceive to be the fight against corruption. So it wasn't necessarily assessing how the MDAs fared or the anti-corruption agencies, but indirectly assessing how the people perceive the fight, because we all agree that the fight against corruption should be all-inclusive, and that is what we did. The report was launched March 2016.
As a matter of fact, one of the major ones that came out was where you scored the Nigerian police force the most corrupt institution in Nigeria for the 5th year in a row. How does that come about? How were you able to get that?
I'm not aware there have been previous scorings for them anyway, but probably not by Sarah. And we didn't score the police. We should, like I said, it is the perception of the people. We went around Nigeria, we covered 6 states. We tried to give it a small geographical spread and to cover all the 6 geopolitical zones, including Abuja. So as part of their key indicators that the survey, the people carried out the survey, we got a consultant who did that. There are key indicators they used, and one of them was that the likelihood of corruption in each of those sectors. And across the people we asked, 54% believed that they are likely to be asked to pay a bribe in interacting with the police. So that is what translated to the score. And we've said this at different fora. The idea is to engage anti-corruption agencies themselves. Probably they are not doing more. That is not for me to say. It is Nigerians that is saying this. Or probably they need to tell the people more what they are doing. And that is why those scores came out. And it's interesting that one of the key indicators looked at the share of national bribe, so to speak. National bribe in this instance, not the cake now. And then
we'd like to hear that.
It turned out that the judiciary will have the largest share. And I think if broken down, if explained, you would understand that the average bribe that the Nigerian Republic give to someone in the judiciary is expected to be larger than that of the average policeman. It was probably on the road who would take what some people have called giving some denominations of naira. So those things are what the average man on the street could relate to.
So an average person on the street believes that the amount of bribe you give to the judiciary when you're talking about lawyers and all of that, judges, is actually more lump sum than any other agency or any other sector.
Yes, that is what came out from the research. That's what the average Nigerian believes.
This is pretty interesting because we are in a period that would say there's an avalanche of high-profile legal litigations out there that people are watching and asking questions about how some of the judgments and summations are made.
Like you had mentioned, the judgment need not have been induced anyway, but the perceptions of Nigerians are important. So if no bribe was given, but if the average Nigerian believes that a bribe was given, it is still a problem. It is still something to give the government concern.
It's unbelievable. Let's talk about the power sector, because even as we speak right here in Abuja, we know that power generation, or rather the amount of power that has been given to the discos across Nigeria to, distribute has really been little or nothing. I mean, there was like power outage for over 24, 48 hours in so many parts of the country. So give us an idea of, corruption assessment in the power sector.
In the power sector, there are some interesting figures. I'll point out to you now based on what we have there. You would interested to know that in one of the key indicators we used about the likelihood of bribe, which it means from the survey, from the total number, the people perceive that they are going to be expected to pay, they are going to be asked to pay a bribe. They ranked power as second after the police. Yes. And that's a huge 49.1% of the respondents. And of course, again, I must say, I don't think that should be surprising to anyone. So you can understand the way these things go. And I will point out another key indicator which we used. That is the prevalence of bribe. And then power ranked second again, consistently. So this speaks a lot about how Nigeria works.
Why do you think that power ranked second? I mean, we barely have it. So who are you bribing, and how are you bribing people to have the power?
Now, some of the questions, the way the questions are structured, they really don't put the questions in the mouth of the respondents. But of course, they are day-to-day experiences that we all go through. For instance, talking about prepaid meters. Does the average Nigerian have access to it? When they apply, do they get it on time? And then when they get it, do they have to part with some form of gratification to get it? Those are questions. And then we talk about estimated billing, which of course we all know is a crime now. But I can tell you, it is still being practiced.
Of course, all across Nigeria. So for all intents and purposes, estimated billing being a crime is also, Nigerians see that as a form of
Of course, it's corruption. It is just, the law just, society, the law recognizes that it's becoming a trend. And that is why they have to pass legislation to make it a crime.
And tell me about the health sector. In which areas were they asked to pay bribe? Because these things are pretty...
I think in health-wise, in our indicator one, which is the likelihood of a bribe demanded of them, the health ranks came last.
Interesting.
Came last, yes.
Out of 5 then.
And I think that is not surprising too, given that the health sector has a bit of an alternative compared to power, police, and judiciary. I mean, if the police doesn't help you, where do you have to go?
Exactly.
So that's not surprising.
Interesting. Let's talk about, I'm seeing in your rankings and all of that, you have education as well. Now, education is pretty expensive in this country, and people will do whatever it takes to get the right kind of education, if you can even find it. So what were your respondents' ideas in terms of corruption in the education sector?
There are some interesting figures that come out from this one too.
We want to hear those.
Yes. This particular indicator is very interesting, indicator 3. It's asked that it tries to capture the respondent's perception on whether they would have received the services they sought from the institution if they had failed to pay a bribe. So what it means is that we are trying to ask the respondents, do they think they will be expected, do they think they would get the services they asked for if they didn't pay a bribe? And then in the education sector, it ranked the third, almost the same mark with the judiciary. So it means the average citizen believes that in going to school, probably public, private, because this is happening in the private sector too, probably from the primary to university, they would be expected to pay a bribe before they get those services.
Unbelievable. Now, you said you did your survey, 5 states or 6 states?
6 states,
6
including
states, including
the
FCT. So what's the age bracket of the people that were your respondents?
Of course, 18.
And
18 and above, yes.
Interesting. So did you have a different kind of demography? Older people,
yes,
people in the rural area, people in the urban area, because I believe that people perceive corruption differently depending on where you reside.
Yes.
For example, a person living in Enugu will probably see corruption differently from a person living in Abuja. So were there any discrepancies in terms of location and where people are based?
Yes, there are data sets from the main, that's the main data source, that there was an intentional we tried to get a ratio between the people in the rural area and the people in the urban. And then it comes out that the people in the urban areas appear less inclined to report corruption than the people in the rural areas. Because the people in the urban areas appear to have more alternatives than the people in the rural area. Really, if they don't go to public health facilities, which some of them are not working, where will they go?
Interesting. Some would actually think that people in the urban areas have become so complacent when it comes to bribery. They're so used to it that they see it as a way of life, unlike people in the urban area,
I don't think so. Recently, there was a meeting we had with some of our stakeholders, and it came out that the people in the urban areas have more access to report corruption and less incentive than the people in the rural areas. That is a fact. Because the people in the urban areas, they have, like I mentioned, they have alternatives. And then they have Twitter, they have all these things. They have the resources, but less incentive. People in rural areas don't have the resources, but more incentive. Because if in a tiny community that is 20 kilometers away to the nearest hospital, for instance, they are ready to engage you to talk, but there are no incentives.
What do you think needs to be done for the people to perceive that this administration is doing something at least?
That's very good. And that is one of the points we're taking forward, taking the recommendations and the findings to government. We've been to ICPC, for instance, we've been to NATI, and we're going to key anti-corruption agencies and bodies too. The government needs to do more, but much more importantly, get the people on board in the fight against corruption. Corruption is something that happens everywhere, and we are all stakeholders, not only government. So the government needs to invest more in educating the people, and that is what we are doing as a CSO, as a responsible CSO, to educate the people, advocate on the ills of corruption. Let the average mechanic and the average vulcanizer see that corruption is bad, that the president is trying to fight corruption, that he too must do his own little bit to fight corruption.
And what is pretty interesting is that even for that vulcanizer on the street or salon owner, a lot of them will look at what is happening in the polity and say there are really many arrests. A lot of people haven't gone through the name and shame. The legal system is so slow that even when a person is accused of corruption, nothing really happens. There are a countless number of excuses, or rather examples of people who have been fingered, who've been, accused of corruption, who either go scot-free or everything lingers. So in a situation like that, how then do you convince people that the anti-corruption fight is even going anywhere?
I believe there's still a bit of a belief in people that the system can work. Because as a CSO, yes, we go around, we talk to people. Like I said, we do media engagements and town hall meetings and try to put feelers to what the people feel. And I believe we have a large percentage of people who will believe if the government, if they do more in actual action against corruption, and if they try to be as much to get in touch with the people, the more.
I see.
Yes.
A big thank you to you, Kolawole Uluwadari, for taking our time to talk to us. What Serap is doing is pretty encouraging, and a lot of people take information from that. Continue to do that. We need more of those pointers. Thank you so much. All right, so you have heard a lot of what Kolawole has talked about. Do us a favor. Give us your comments. Give us your thoughts on all the aspects of fighting corruption that he has listed on the comment section of this video. My name is Gloria Oje Emode, and you're watching Rootstv Nigeria.